Thank you for tuning into the Alt Fund Investment Podcast. Please like and subscribe if you find this information helpful. We connect investment fund managers and service providers. This content is for informational purposes only. I'd like to introduce Antoine Hello from Ledger. Ledger is a security provider for digital assets, both retail and institution. Antoine, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mike. Pleasure being on your podcast.
So tell us about Ledger and tell us about the services that you guys offer.
Well, so Ledger is a French company. It has been operating since 2014. It's a French company, but it's been operating globally from the start because, well, the industry is really global and the users were global from day one. So what we provide are two main products today. So first, a retail offer with our really famous hardware wallets called the Ledger Nanos. And we launched a new product. I think we will talk about this a bit later, so I will save it. But these are really, really famous and really popular across the industry. We sold 6 million units overall, which is huge success when you think about it. And then we have the B2B offer. So we offer a self-custody platform, but for companies as well, because they have different challenges that we needed to address if they wanted to adopt digital assets, Bitcoin, and others.
Talk to us. What is custody? What does custody really mean? In terms of both digital assets and even traditional assets.
Yes. So custody for traditional assets was traditionally a safekeeping service that financial institutions would provide for customer securities, for example. And so for a fee, the financial institutions would get rewarded and so on. So it was really about security as well. Now for digital assets, it's kind of the same principle. You basically delegate your assets to someone else. I mean, you delegate the right, not the right, but you give to an institution the responsibility to secure your digital assets on your behalf. So that's mainly about it. And so as the nature of digital assets is very particular, they have to have a proper infrastructure to manage it.
Got it. Now let's talk about custody for institutions as well as for individuals. What are some of the options when it comes to custody that individuals and corporations can exercise?
So, well, if we start with individuals, you have what we call the hardware wallets. So typically Ledger products. These are known to be the most secure solutions on the market because it secures with a combination of hardware, firmware, and software. So all the different layers you need to make an experience really secure. You need these three. And so it has all, at least at Ledger, we use all these layers to protect the private keys where the assets are tied to. So you have this first option, hardware wallet, then software wallet, typically MetaMask, Argent, and other software wallets. They can be non-custodial as well. You have recovery keys for them. And then you have a third option as an individual, but also here is, I will get back to that, but for individual, you can use an exchange or a bank maybe to secure your assets as well. So here you delegate again your assets to the responsibility of someone else. And so for institutional, it's the same thing. They have the choice in terms of infrastructure and in terms of segregation and risk management they want to put in place. So they can use hardware wallets. Some of them still use our retail products because they cover a lot of different digital assets. So it's very handy, but you have some trade-off because you can't manage governance on top of it. So it's a one-to-one relationship. It's not very recommended.
Makes sense. Like if one person had the keys, they could technically move.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at the history of the industry, you see regularly a CEO or someone managing a large amount of crypto disappearing in one day without any family, anything tied to him. But weirdly, the private keys of the platform or the services they provide disappeared with him. So this is a situation the serious companies want to avoid, obviously. Yeah, but they can also, so this is the second phase, they can also use a third-party custodian, regulated custodian, which would act as a bank. And this would be interesting for them because in this case, they separate their assets as a company from their client's assets, they delegate it or vice versa. And so the risk management is really closer to traditional finance in this case.
Got it. And then let's kind of dive into each of the different types of custody products, if you will.
Yeah.
Talk to us about cold storage versus hot storage. What are some of the benefits and drawbacks of each?
Yes. So cold storage historically refers to a wallet that is kept offline. So the benefit is obviously that as long as you stay offline, the level of risk is limited to the physical world and being stolen again in the physical reality.
And now,
Hot
when you just to dive in a little bit more, so like it's offline, so it's not connected to anything. So how does somebody even get those coins? If I put my coins in a cold storage, how do I get those back, move them somewhere else?
So you have what we call the recovery key, which is related to the private key. So the private keys is a way, I mean, is a tool to interact with your assets staying on the blockchain, right? The recovery key is a set of words that is humanly readable. So you could keep it on a sheet of paper and put it at rest in your bank safe at home and so on. I mean, in your bank safe or your safe at home. And in this case, well, it's just that you can imagine some people will buy Bitcoin. They want to keep it for a long time and they just don't want to touch it. They see it as saving, so they put it under the bed. And when they need to interact again, they will recover their private key using the recovery key.
Got
Does
it.
it make sense? Yeah.
And then the hot storage.
Yeah, so the hot storage, well, is the opposite. So hot means that you are online. The benefit in this case, should it be at retail level or institutional level, is that you are connected to all the, I mean, you can connect to all the experiences with the DApps, with the exchanges. I mean, it's much more flexible in terms of usability because you have it on your smartphone, typically your computer. And for institutional, hot storage is often used uh, to do algorithmic trading, reaching high frequency trading, getting the best out of computing power and, trading infrastructure. So the, the benefit here is that with the velocity of the asset, well, uh, your assets are maybe a bit more complicated to attack because they are always moving. But at the same time, when you increase the level of complexity, thanks to programmatic, thanks to API and all programmatic logics, in this case, the complexity can also be a vector of attack. And so this is why we see regularly as well native crypto companies being hacked or just mismanaging assets because they went too fast to some extent.
Makes sense. Thank you. Um, how about in the case of third-party custodians versus self-custody? Could you kind of walk us through what that looks like?
Yes, absolutely. So third-party custodian is really when you give the responsibility of your assets to someone else. So it should be a regulated custodian to be safe because it gives some level of guarantee that they will well audit their governance, provide a proper infrastructure as professional institution to secure assets at large scale. Self-custody is really about direct ownership. You are the one in charge of your money. You are the one in charge of your assets. And here, I mean, yeah, we come back to the reality of digital assets. It's like, think about it this way. It's an intangible asset. It's always digital, but it has to be managed as a bearer asset class if you want to own it really. So self-custody is the traditional crypto behavior that people would expect, but uh, there are some financial services now which are provided by third-party custodians. I mean, they are becoming like crypto banks, if you think about
Mhm.
it. So it's again a question of trade-off. If you really trust a third-party custodian, some of them can be good. Some of them are doing some really professional work and are using secure infrastructure. They work really well. Others, like we have seen recently, are just well, can we say crooks in English? Well,
So talk to us about some of the differences between a hardware wallet versus digital wallets. I got maybe smartphone app, things like that versus, having that ledger or, other products that you guys offer.
yeah, absolutely. So the main difference between hardware wallet and digital wallets, iPhone apps, phone apps, and so on, is really the level of security. So first, you have different tools to interact with your assets and the applications of the crypto industry. But um, if you look at what we provide, again, hardware wallet, start with the hardware, as its name says.
Mhm.
Um, so it means that with Ledger, you will get different components, and specifically one which is very important. It's called the secure element, which will protect your private keys at rest and when you interact with the applications online, because you can obviously, it's not a black box. You don't keep your hardware wallet. It's meant to be interactive as well. We've developed different apps like Ledger Live to to follow your portfolio, to interact with different services out there. A digital wallet will be an app on your phone, and this phone today is not designed to secure digital assets like cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, and so on. They don't have the same hardware, firmware, and software components which are required to get a good level of security. So the risk with a phone app is to get drained without even noticing it, just by clicking on a random link that was in another app and so on. You are, think about it like your app for crypto on your phone is just an app on a platform, and this platform hasn't been designed for the experience you're trying to get. So even if it's super intuitive because you know how your smartphone works, it's you're using your fingers and so on, it's super nice. In the background, you may not see the risks that are actually occurring.
That makes sense because yeah, like you said, you could even click on spam email, something like that. Somebody gets access to it.
Absolutely. It really comes from everywhere. Our CTO, I was reading a blog article he wrote for the end of the year, like a retrospective. He always talks about the Pegasus hack that happened. So this is what we call a 0-day, 0-click hack. Users don't even know that they have been hacked. And it happened to our favorite president in the world, Emmanuel Macron. So if this happens to someone at the head of a state which has a nuclear weapon, etc., well, you can be quite naive if you think that your wallet is safe on your smartphone. I mean, the hackers capable of doing such a thing to a president, they can also orchestrate at large scale draining wallets with a spam campaign, with different hacks and so on. So
Yeah,
these are the risks.
very interesting. And now with hardware wallets, what happens if you were to lose your hardware wallet?
Well, You can always recover your assets thanks to the recovery key. So when you initiate your hardware wallet for the first time, you will need to generate 24 words, write them down. If you've done it properly, you can use this set of 24 words to recover all the accounts and assets on another wallet. We are following open source protocols, which are shared across the industry and across hardware wallet providers and wallet providers overall, so that if you are not happy with our services, you can still find your assets somewhere else.
To transition a little bit, so now we kind of covered a lot of the, what type of different wallets are out there, different type of custody solutions. To kind of transition to risk, obviously custody is a very hot topic right now. We've seen billions of dollars being withdrawn from Binance. The CEO of Paxful, he even came out on Twitter and said, don't hold any of your savings on an exchange unless you're like really actively trading. None of your tokens should be on an exchange because there's always, some form of risk there. So talk to us about those risks about holding these assets on exchanges. What does that look like?
Well, yeah. So the first learnings, overall, is that we need to raise the standards as an industry when it comes to institutional custody. Again, there are tools today which are available to build strong and robust governance frameworks, strong infrastructure, so that you give guarantees to your end clients that they can be safe with you and get the best of the financial services you want to provide to them. With FTX, well, it's been a nightmare for a lot of people because it was obviously more than just mismanagement or human error. It was literally fraud for many things. Regarding the withdrawals from different crypto exchanges, again, either we see it negatively, thinking that all platforms are doomed, are managed by crooks, etc., etc., which is, I don't think, true. Some of them, again, are sound professional and are building good services. But this will be a challenge for the industry to give the guarantees again and to raise the standard. It's not the other way around. You can't complain if your users don't feel secure with your business because maybe you don't give enough transparency, you don't give enough guarantees, you haven't done proper audits, etc. We know that the crypto industry is can be very aggressive. We've seen different moves from companies which are economically aggressive. So as an end client, yes, it's good as well to think about this because an exchange platform, even in traditional finance, is really used usually for specific operations. It's not a bank. So the regulatory requirements are not the same as a bank. And here we are still in a phase where the regulatory framework is being built. So yeah, for our own clients, if you want to keep your asset long term, you can use hardware wallets like Ledger, any self-custody, but Ledger would be my go-to solution. These are the main things I'm thinking about these days. Yeah.
What type of questions should LPs, limited partners, the individuals that are investing into different hedge funds, different fund vehicles like that, what should they be asking when it comes to allocating capital?
Well, guarantees. So what I mean by guarantees is really like to have the ability to get proper reports on how the operations are managed in their third party. So you have reports and audits coming from traditional finance, which are adapted to crypto businesses. Obviously, it's not the same kind of experience, not the same kind of assets. But to give you an example, at Ledger Enterprise, so the B2B unit, we are working with big audit firms to help them first understand the technology that needs to be in third-party custody providers, but also like to build the processes with their clients based on the available technology. That's very important. So for your limited partners or investors, yeah, they can look for signs like this. You can see SOC 2 Type 2 attestations, which are global standard, ISO standards as well. Some companies and tech providers even offer insurances across potential hacks and other things that can happen. So these are the guarantees that you would look at to manage risk. Then you have the regulatory aspect again. Depends on where you are in the world, but well, in Europe there has been some progress toward better way to read what's available again on the market, and so you have very good jurisdictions. Switzerland has always been a bit ahead in the race. So companies which are regulated by FINMA, in France by the AMF, and so on. It's also it can be a good sign. If we look at the history with FTX, I don't remember where exactly they were regulated. They were working closely
Bahamas.
with Bahamas, yes. So you see, I mean, you have some trade-off. Of course, those prices, the experience may be cheaper, but it has to come at cost somewhere. And yeah, when they were working with the regulator, it was mainly in the US. So I understand, and I'm personally careful on all these discussions, but between regulators and crypto entities, because sometimes we don't know what's the real agenda to some extent. So yeah.
Now, when it comes to governance, what are some things that people should be thinking about when it comes to governance, like things like multi-sig or especially as we already kind of alluded to, like LPs, like what are some things that LPs and institutions should be thinking about when it comes to governance?
Yes, so that's a great question. So we talked about, well, the base layer with the device or the tool you want to where your assets are basically sitting, if I can express it like this, and then how to interact with the networks. So as an institution, you will need multiple people, different teams, and you will grow most probably. So you will need to make changes in the way you sign outgoing transactions, how you receive assets, how you structure the different accounts in your company, and so on. So we are already building new businesses with in the financial space, but it's also applying to traditional companies launching NFT projects, going into Web3 with different customer journey. Their financial team, for example, needs to be overseeing what the operation team or developers are doing with a smart contract, because everything is still a financial asset. Everything with Bitcoin and Ethereum and other smart contracts is financial, it's transactional. So when we talk about governance, you have multi-signature, which would be an on-chain governance. It's quite cool when you are a small team, very remote. You want to keep things anonymous, and maybe you are working in a DAO. But when you need to get regulated, well, the public entities are looking for liabilities. Therefore, it always comes down to who manages the asset, where are the keys stored, etc. And is there a single point of failure in your organization, like that someone has have access to the private keys and can just run away with it? So you have multi-sig, we talked about it, and then you have two different ways of software type of governance. You have a software layer which will be orchestrated on secure servers such as hardware security modules. This is what we provide at Ledger for institutional. It gives a lot of flexibility because you can, well, whitelist addresses, you can define different teams and how people will approve the outgoing transactions and so on. And you have a second solution, which would be just a software layer on top of a wallet management service. And in this case, the governance layer may not be secured by secure hardware, typically. So again, let's be careful about the infrastructure in the space there.
In terms of, regarding custody, what should a new fund manager be thinking about, when it comes to custody and in really securing those assets?
Yes. So, well, the main challenge will be to find the good spot between security and flexibility. It depends on the strategy of the investor. Some really want to have high velocity and they will favor everything programmatic, which comes again with benefits and disadvantages in terms of security. Whereas others have a long-term approach, it's buy, hold, and let's maybe sell in 5-8 years, just like you would do with life insurance. And in this case, you don't need to have an exposition to very hot wallets. To some extent, you can really build a secure governance framework so that you're more focusing on the rights and accesses to the asset. Then there is another situation I'm thinking about. It's depending on the value you need to transact. If you manage high value transactions, we have clients, they need to send maybe tens of millions or 100 millions in some specific transactions. Well, in this case, you want to have a proper infrastructure so that one person is not in charge of the whole transaction by itself. You want to be able to double check that what your screen, your computer is showing is really what's going on behind in the backend. And you also want to have proper tools to manage the signatures and distribute risk and so on. And so in this case, you want a human to be involved, most probably. So yeah, some technologies allow you to start a transaction using API, so it will be automated, but have a human validation depending on the business logic. So we can be creative, basically, but yeah, mainly have a look at where you stand in terms of your strategy, and if you need to move the assets fast and for high value, or if it's buy and hold and you need to create your citadel.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. That's a great way to think about it. So, Antoine, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. Where should people go to connect with you and learn more about Ledger?
So to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn. My name is easy to remember. It's hello, like hello in English. And then to connect with Ledger, ledger.com is a good start. You will find all our products, the links to our Ledger Academy, to different experiences we are providing the community so that people learn about self-custody, everything we talked about today. It's really powerful because Ledger is a company which has been focusing on adoption, for mass adoption from day one. And so you have a lot of educative content, which is really helpful.
Excellent. Antoine, thanks again so much. Thank you for watching the Alt Funds Investment Podcast. As always, please like and subscribe if you find this information helpful, and let us know down below in the comments what questions you have. Reach out if you're starting an investment fund, and we can help connect you with the right service providers.